Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. There's still time. The AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam territory of the University of beautiful and chilly British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall,
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
and we're back with another packed show. And we're recording this, Zach, on Stuart Armstrong's Sunday.
Is his birthday? Already score or what?
No, because it's Superb Owl Day. And of course, with him joining Sheffield Wednesday, he is the Superb Owl. Not maybe as superb as they were hoping. Got his first start on Saturday, got pulled off just after half-time, 54 minutes. So I don't think his legs are quite there to go yet. That sounds a familiar story. But yeah, it was, of course, Super Bowl Sunday. I didn't really watch it. I was out, came home, switched it on, saw it was 24-0, and thought, oh well, there's not much point watching this now. So, did you watch any of it? Did you not care?
We had it on in the house, but I wasn't watching it super closely.
It was nice that it was a different team that won it, and it wasn't a three-peat. It's nice when it's not the same team winning things over and over and over again. Although, as a Bayern Munich fan, I'm sure you quite like that in the Bundesliga, because your boys got a big victory I saw at the weekend.
It was like one of the worst games of the season.
But 9
It was
points
horrible.
clear was the headline that I saw.
I think it's only 8.
Oh, was it? Oh, well, the headline I saw was wrong then. Although,
But no,
immediately after the game, and then something happened today.
Oh, sorry. We were after the game we were 9, and then Leverkusen. Or was it the same time? I can't remember now. But yeah, Leverkusen only were able to draw. But I think it was that was the factory derby. That was Leverkusen versus Wolfsburg.
Oh.
And it ended in a draw. No, the Bayern game was, I think, the worst I've seen in a long time. It was just a dreadful, we were dreadful.
Wait, as long as they do that on Wednesday in Glasgow, that'll be fine.
Well, if we're dreadful and we win, yeah, that'll be fine.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I want dreadful and a defeat. My DAZN subscription's run out, so I haven't got that to watch the games on Wednesday. I'll find a way of watching them. So don't worry about that. Other Bayern news we'll talk about straight off the bat that I'm sure you are happy with. You're keeping Fonzie.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about that yet.
No. So
yeah.
is it 2030 signed a contract till?
5-year extension or 5-year new deal or whatever, yeah.
So the Whitecaps get some money for that, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, do we know? Can we ask?
I will be asking, but that's what I was led to believe, that was one of the clauses. It's not one of the usual clauses. It's usually just sell-ons. But I do believe that they do get some kerching, some...
It would be good to know how much. We good to know how much. Yeah, honestly, just relieved. Yeah, for the last year plus, I thought for sure he's going to Real.
Yeah. Well, now, if they want him, they're going to have to cough up some money.
Yeah, Bayern's in an interesting spot when it comes to squad building. So Fonzie is kind of, one of these first pieces or early pieces. Joshua Kimmich renewing. He's in the same contractual situation as Fonzie in terms of he could sign anywhere now. So that's a significant one. Extending and then obviously financially upping Jamal Musiala is another massive thing. less so massive on the field side, but significant in terms of the club itself. Also, will be what happens with Thomas Muller. He's in the last few months of his contract. Will he want to come back? Even though his role will be like it is this year, which is significantly diminished. But do you want to not have him back because he's such a massive figure at the club? And if he doesn't, then does he go and play somewhere else and turn down the opportunity to be, like a unicorn in the modern age, which is a one club play. But no, so those are all significant. Neuer signed on for another year, so that's kind of interesting. We have a young keeper, but I think with Fonzie, I think a big part of this is the financial remuneration, of course, what he's going to be making, which will probably be minimum 13 million net or gross. I can't remember which. Minimum, it could be up to like 15 or even more. But also, hopefully, it's a sign that he knows like his buddy Jamal is going to extend, and that they believe that the future is brighter than, let's say, the present, and definitely than the last year or last year and a half. But we'll see, and we'll talk about it casually, I'm sure, in the months ahead. But yeah. Really happy for Alfonso. Happy for Bayern about that. Now, just hoping he'll get back on the pitch because things are becoming more and more real for my little excursion for the Nations League. I think the accommodations have been booked, and
there's no turning back now. Then, of course, Fonzie celebrated by releasing a rap.
Yes,
and quite a few people messaged me and said, "Oh, is this your new Wavelength song for this episode?" No, it's not.
No, it better be on Wavelength at some point.
It will be, but the next 2 weeks, it's Pop Will Eat Itself, our album of the month artists that I have songs for. So they were already planned, so I'm not shying away from that.
But then does he have to wait until after Football Violence Awareness Month?
No. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
April?
He does. It'll be April.
Okay.
We'll be back in the pitch for then.
As long as it happens before the end of this playing season.
So what I've been watching all weekend is cup football, FA Cup, Scottish Cup. I'm sure you haven't probably seen any of it, Zach.
I saw some of the Leagues Cup in England in midweek.
Yeah, that was midweek. Yeah. So you won't have seen
and the German Cup midweek, of course.
Did you see the offside in the Man United game?
Man United is never offside, Michael. What are you talking about?
93rd, 94th minute, they get a free kick. It's 1-0 against Leicester. There's no VAR in this round of the FA Cup.
What? That's so dumb.
It's been an interesting weekend. So, free kick comes in. I tweeted the picture out from the still frame, as many others have as well.
Yeah, I think I've seen it.
4 Man United players offside.
Yeah.
Including Harry Maguire at the back, who just heads home the winning goal. It was like incredible. But it's been an absolutely fantastic weekend of cup football. Cup shocks in England. Plymouth Argyle, bottom of the championship, taking on Liverpool, the best team in Europe apparently right now. And Plymouth won 1-0.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that I had not heard.
The quadruple is over for Liverpool. Even better in Scotland. Now, as a fan of a lower Scottish team, I hate the ugly sisters, as we call them, Celtic and Rangers. If they can get knocked out of the cup by a small team, it's always joy. Mixed emotions this weekend because Celtic were playing our rivals Wraith Rovers. Celtic won 5-0, so wasn't too upset by that. Rangers today playing second tier Queen's Park. The last time Queen's Park beat them in the cup was 1882. Queen's Park had one shot on target. Queen's Park won 1-0 at Ibrox.
Oh, I have something about that later in the show.
I
didn't know the result, but that's crazy.
Well, there's a joke in Scotland, the phrase penalty to Rangers. So Queen's Park are winning 1-0. It's the 95th minute. It's the dying seconds, and Rangers get a penalty. And Rangers see that penalty saved.
Wow.
Goes out for a corner. The corner comes in. Goal-bound header. The keeper miraculously tips it on the bar and over.
Wow.
Oh, it was a joy. I've watched the highlights. I've watched Sports Scene. I've watched the meltdown of the Rangers fans. It's a joy. But when either one of those teams their fans are so entitled. Although, talking of entitled, the Liverpool fans were like telling Plymouth fans to calm down. You haven't won anything. You just won a game. It's like you've just shocked the team that's running away with the Premiership and the top of the Champions Cup, stroke league. I don't know what they call it there now. And it's like, I think they deserve to celebrate and have a little bit of fun.
Totally.
Yeah. But it was a really good weekend for cup football. So that was good. Last thing I'll mention in the intro is I haven't tweeted this out, but I was featured in The Guardian this week. It's always worrying when you wake up and a friend in Scotland says, "Oh, I see you're in The Guardian today." My immediate thought was, "Oh no, they found the bodies." But it wasn't that.
Was it that dodgy article about Vancouver?
No, it was a friend of mine had written an article for Nutmeg magazine about characters at East Fife that were no longer going to the games, some of them no longer with us. So I did an interview with him for it. So for some reason, The Guardian picked that article up and ran it on The Guardian this week. So it got a lot of traction. And it did get me thinking, though, and I know it's probably the same in like Germany and England and Scotland with the big all-seater stadiums, but that's like one of the joys of watching a team like East Fife or even like TSS Rovers or probably Vancouver FC as well. When it's smaller crowds, you really notice characters. And it's like you don't get as many, or you don't see as many of those at the big MLS games or the big Premiership games or Bundesliga, because there's just so many fans there. And you're not able to move about, so you're only seeing your small section week in, week out. But we had a guy that he would always come to games with 6 bags of crisps, chips, and eat them all during the game. And he always wore a long Mac, like he was some kind of flasher and stuff as well. There was Tranny Man, who had his transistor radio that would have all the scores. And then one of the guys that I was doing the interview with, he was called the Fintry Fifer because he was from Fintry. And he would shout things like, "Up my end, East Fife," and "Silky Soccer East," character, and then just disappeared without a trace. And we all thought he was dead, but he wasn't. He had mental illness on and off, which I won't go into. But it turned out he only died last year, so we just found that out. But it's like there's been so many characters like that, and then they just disappear, and you don't notice that so much here.
There's a few.
Well, I mean, there's certainly been some characters, especially back in the old Whitecaps days at Swangard.
Yeah, definitely.
But those are the guys that if they weren't there week in, week out, you would notice. But now I don't know if your seat buddies would notice at BC Place, but the general fan base wouldn't. And that's kind of sad.
I think the first one that maybe stands out for me when I think about in Vancouver would be, for multiple reasons probably, but the one specifically was, and this might have just been before your time, I can't remember, but you might have heard about him, but with Kramerhead.
Oh, no, yeah. Oh, no, I met him.
Yeah.
Buffering his stream.
Yeah. Well, there's that. But then do you also remember, I think, like one time he, like, as you would say, went to the loo, and then like, the Vancouver scored or whatever. And so, like, then it became a thing, like, we need a goal. Kramerhead. Like,
oh, yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, just lots of, yeah, you're right. There were lots of interesting characters back in the day. But that's, I mean, even with the all-seaters, like you still, I mean, in MLS, in an MLS setup with all-seater or whether it's GA or not, you do get to know, like, typically the people you're around and, yeah.
So for the long-time Whitecaps fans, let us know any of the characters that you've seen watching the Whitecaps over the years. I'd love to hear about them, love to have a chat about them. Final bit for the intro. It's that time of year again, Zach. It's Fund Drive time at CITR Radio. It runs from February the 6th to February the 13th, and this will be AFTN's Fund Drive show. CITR and Discorder magazine are trying to raise $20,000, primarily this year to continue the sustained presence of Discorder magazine throughout the Lower Mainland. The main aims for the fundraising drive this year is to get funds for a new website, preserving the physical archive by digitising it onto that website, and also to expand physical distribution across the Lower Mainland with new drop boxes coming to city centre corners near you. CITR Radio has been in operation since 1937, gaining an FM licence in 1982. It's also the home to Discorder magazine, the longest-running independent culture magazine in Vancouver. You can go to the website donate2citr.ca and give anything you can towards that 20,000 goal. When you go on to that website, you can click how much you want to donate. Just mention that AFTN Soccer Show, or AFTN, is the CITR programme that inspired you for your donation. And as well as feeling good about your generosity, there's also some tiered prizes that you can get. Everything this year is having a disco theme. So if you donate $35 or $5 a month, you'll get a Disco Bomb enamel pin. $70 or $10 a month will get you a Goated Discorder pennant. $125 or $15 a month will get you a kindling toque with the CITR logo on it and an on-air Valentine's Day dedication. $225 or $20 a month will get you a CITR fanny pack. $500 or $50 a month will get you a Disco Bomb felt vinyl mat. And for $1,000 or $100 a month, you can host your own show and get recognised on the donors wall. So remember, head over to donate2citr.ca. Every little helps. Anything you can give would be very much appreciated. Just mention AFTN sent you there, and let's see how close we can get towards that $20,000 goal. We've been on CITR Radio now for 8 years. We've just gone into our 9th year on the station. We're coming up as well to our 13th year of doing this podcast. We started the podcast in 2013. We've been on CITR since 2017, and it's a great place to call our home, and we are the only soccer show on Vancouver radio. So let's get back into the football chat now. You might be wondering, where is this week's hot chocolate boy? I thought, well, we've talked a lot at the start of the show. I'm going to bring it at the end of this part, so don't worry, it is coming, as is my diabetes with the amount of hot chocolates that I've been having. But let's get into our Whitecaps news of the week for this part. And the Whitecaps' last scheduled, as far as we know, pre-season game is in the books. I mean, there might be some other ones we don't know about, but their last pre-season game down in Marbella is done and dusted now. A solid 2-0 win over the Swedish side, IF Brommapojkarna. I've been practicing my pronunciations in case I go to Marbella next year and I can do the commentary for them. I am seriously thinking about that if they go to Marbella. Who knows if there's going to be a pre-season next year, though, because we don't know what the MLS schedule is going to be. But I've already said to Nathan, I might come next year.
That would be lovely.
Yeah. It was a good performance. Isaac Boehmer got a full game this time. We spoke last time that Yohei Takaoka had got it. Goal just before half-time. Jayden Nelson. Lovely cross into the back post. Nelson rising, heading the ball home, looking sharp. And if we can get goals at the back post, or Nelson like ghosting in at the back post unmarked like that, that bodes well for this season to come. It was a nicely taken goal.
It was wonderful.
But yeah, that put the Whitecaps 1-0 up just before half-time, and then a few minutes after, in a lovely team goal. I think I counted 11, 12 passes. Ali Ahmed finishes it off. Nice strike. Yeah,
a good finish. And you're right, a good team goal, like an encouraging team goal. The preseason, they've done well in terms of, like, I think we've talked in the past about sort of dominating games or having the control of the matches. But the goals haven't always been super. I mean, there's been some set play goals, which are probably nice, but are like helpful for as the season goes on. But both these goals in this match felt more like just encouraging about the offense, the way they came about. And it feels like they're beginning to click a little bit offensively together in this kind of new group of players and new approach from the coach.
Yeah, and like Jesper said, he's still not totally happy with the team. They're not up to the levels that he needs them to be. They have to try and find a little bit more, but some of the players got 75 minutes, some got just over an hour. And it's what you want to see. It's progression from the team. They started with a loss, then they got a draw, they finished with 2 victories, and they finished with 2 clean sheets as well, which I think is very important. And it's nice to see Ali Ahmed getting on the score sheet. We've spoken before about what a big season this is for Ali, and especially with Canada in mind as well. Jesse Marsh has loved what he's done so far in a Canadian jersey. We need to see more from Ali Ahmed, especially if he wants to get that move to Europe that's kind of been cited as well. But Jaden Nelson, early days, looks like he has slotted in. The chat we had with him on the show last week as well, he's hungry to show what he can do. And that's exactly the kind of players that you want. Now, at the time of recording this, there's no other new additions to the team. There is the strong rumour, it's basically been said it's a done deal, that American Ghanaian winger Emmanuel Sabi is going to sign for the club. So we won't delve into that just now. I spoke a little bit about it in the extra podcast that we brought out last week. So once he signs, Zach and me will kind of delve into what he can bring to the team. But another wing piece, still have to get that midfield sorted out. And with Stuart Armstrong gone, they need some more creativity there.
Yeah, this could be a really helpful piece. Seen some of the videos that are floating around of his goals and his play and stuff, and yeah, an exciting player. It'll be interesting to see, though. You're right. I think there's still maybe some more help centrally that they could use. Right. Yeah,
the midfield definitely looks the weaker of all the 3 areas of the field right now. But it's hard to tell from the pre-season games because you don't know the level that the other teams are at. Some of them are mid-season, some of them are pre-season. I mean, we'll find out. It's going to be a baptism of fire with the games coming up with Saprissa and Portland and LA Galaxy. So it's not an easy start. They have a few days off. They all flew in. Long flight. Some of them had to stay overnight in Frankfurt as well and got in on Saturday morning, Vancouver time. And then they'll be back on the training pitch on Wednesday. So we'll kind of get to see how they're gelling, how they're looking there. There's hope. There's also a lot of uncertainty just now. And I think part of that ties into something else that I'll talk about in this part. Last time round, in the last show, we spoke a good 10 minutes or so about US tariffs, what it could mean to Canadian soccer.
Oh, yeah, right.
And as I was editing it last Monday, the news came out that Trudeau had a phone call with Trump and there was going to be a second one. And I thought, they're going to postpone the tariffs. But I thought, I'm going to leave it in the show because I think it was an important discussion to have. I'm pretty sure in 30 days' time, these tariffs are still going to be coming, especially because everyone was pointing out, Trudeau just has said what he said in December he was going to do, and Trump's bought that. So Trump will feel he hasn't got anything out of it. So we'll either ratchet the heat up a little bit or still introduce the tariffs.
Yeah, because the tariffs that we were talking about before, like a 25% across the board for anything, right?
Yeah, although he then said it might just be 10 for oil and gas because they kind of need all the Albertan oil.
Yeah. Well, a thing I saw today said that there's going to be a 25% tariff on all steel or aluminum or something coming into the U.S. starting tomorrow, on Monday.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that.
So I don't know what that does I don't know how much of that we provide.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it is still an important thing to talk about. But the other aspect of it that we spoke about last week was we pondered, what will this mean for Canadian fans of the 3 MLS teams, just looking at it from a soccer point of view, going into the US for away games, for trips, etc., etc. And it's been interesting. I've seen stuff this weekend, folks been sharing photos of getting to the border on a Saturday and a Sunday, and there being no cars, which is wow. And I saw an article that in Bellingham, Costco, Walmart, Trader Joe's, no BC plates in the parking lots, or hardly any. and you're like, oh. When we were grocery shopping this weekend, we were in a Save-On, and there's like all these signs everywhere of saying, this is Canadian, proud to be Canadian owned, etc., etc. A lot of the Canadian products I noticed had like a special offer for this week, $1 off or whatever. And it's like, oh, this is getting really interesting. But turning it back round to a football point of view, it was announced a couple of days ago the Southsiders have cancelled their bus down to Portland for the season opener against the Timbers due to lack of interest. And I believe they had only actually sold 5 tickets for the bus, which is like changed days totally. Now that was for the bus. A lot of folk are still making, or were planning to make, their own way down. So that the proof of what kind of impact this have will be how many actual tickets have been sold for the away area for the game. Yeah. There's a lot of factors involved. The loonie is dropping, so it's more expensive to go down there. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff, so you kind of have to stay overnight unless you're getting up super early and just powering down, taking the game and then coming home. Most folk were looking to stay overnight, so it then becomes a lot more expensive with the Canadian dollar to the American dollar. So you've got that aspect of it. There's still uncertainty about the team as well as to what's happening on the pitch, what's happening off the pitch. And then you've got the whole Trump aspect, which last time when he was in, a lot of the Whitecaps fans said, well, we're not going down to the US while he's president. We're not spending money down there. And that's another factor as well. So I put that out to see just folks' thoughts on it. And wow, what a response on Twitter, what a response on Blue Sky. So many folk replied. I'll read some of them, but there's so many of them, I can't go through them all. And a lot of them were making the same point. But the key aspect, Zach, seems to be Trump more than anything else. Yeah.
And this time, one of the interesting factors, which I can't remember if we talked about last week, but I know we touched on it a little bit. But so there is you're right, all these things are valid. The dollar potential or forthcoming tariff situation is a concern. Trump himself. But the other thing about this, Michael, is that is different this time is this whole Canada 51st state thing. And that's one of the things that to me, I've seen in some of the circles, on social media in different places. I've been surprised to see how anti-American people are in terms of not disrespectful to the states or whatever, but just saying like, no, our identity, north of the 49th parallel or whatever, our identity is we are Canadian. We are different than you. We respect you. You're our neighbors. You're our North American cousins or siblings or whatever, however you want to look at that. But like, we are not you, and we don't want to be you for some of those reasons we just mentioned, and a whole bunch of other reasons probably. And that's been. But I mean,
let's be honest. Some Canadians do. Yeah. It's a small minority. But there's that. And also we should say it's not against Americans, because a lot of Americans totally understand that.
Oh, yeah.
And everything. And I've seen lots of comments, and I'm in a couple of groups as well, with Americans apologising and saying, look, this doesn't represent our views. We respect you as a country. We don't want this. And they totally understand.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're right. There are some Canadians who I think would or whatever, pro-Trump, or might even be happy for Canada to join the States. But I'm surprised at how it's not even so much. To me, it was one of these things, Michael, that seems to me in Canada that goes across the Canadian political spectrum, where it's not like, oh, if you're left-wing or right-wing or centrist in Canada, you're this, that, the other. I think you see people from across the spectrum.
Yeah, he's done an amazing job in uniting these people that were fighting about different things.
Exactly. That to me, anyways, that to me has been really interesting. Looking forward to hearing what the social medias have said. Do you want me to read any? I have Blue Sky open. Do you want me to read any of these? Or
oh yeah, you can do some of the Blue Sky ones, because I'm in Twitter just now. So we won't go through. Like, I read and replied to most of you as well, read them all, and it's just we don't want to repeat the same fact over and over. So some of the non-Trump things that I'll just kind of read out here. Footy Fan said, too bad, but I suspect a shoestring budget trip would probably still run north of 500 quid. He's obviously from the UK. I still refer to things as quid as well. And he's like, with how tight things are, I suspect most people can't justify it. XYZ parent said, I won't buy a ticket to anywhere in the US until Trump is gone. Grumpa Steve says, I remember being so excited when the Caps came to MLS, but they built nothing on it. It reminds me so much of Vancouver Grizzlies, and it really is sad. So he's somebody that's just not enthused for the season, and that's why he's not planning on travelling as well. And yeah. I'll just read one last one here, and then you can do some of the blue sky ones. Kieran said it's a combination of things. A lot of people don't want to spend money in the US right now. It's going to be outrageously expensive with the current exchange rate. It's on a Sunday, so the bus up after the game gets you in late, and people are not feeling great about the teams. It is a lot of different factors.
Yeah, the sale factor, I forgot that is a massive one. On Blue Sky, Walter said, I can tell you the Trump factor is a huge one. It's definitely the reason I decided not to go, and it was also the reason most cited by those that said no to this trip. You're lots of just commenting on Trump here. Gordy, our buddy Gordy said, it is that what you were just saying. He says this, I'm getting flashbacks to the 2004 Montreal Expos before they moved to DC to become the Nationals. So there is that whole being for sale and the potential of that not ending well.
It's an interesting one as well, because the team need to show the fan base is there to prospective owners.
Yeah.
But if folk are not wanting to spend money because they think the team's losing, then prospective owners think, oh, then there isn't a fan base there. We should move them.
Well, here's one different one, Michael. It's from Owen W. My 10-year-old has shown less interest so far this preseason. Really liked Fafa. He's gone. Really liked Raposo. Gone. Hopefully when the matches kick off for real, the vibe changes.
Yeah, I saw that one from Owen, and that is something as well. Like, young fans, like, they have their players that they look up to. I think Jayden Nelson can be a guy that is kind of like a Raposo kind of guy, that excites the fans, and he's Canadian, and the young fans can really look up to him because he's young as well. But that certainly plays an impact. A couple more here. Noe said, I was looking into this as I've talked for a while about making the trip with my son. For me, it's the dollar and no desire to go to the US. And Tim Altman, who we both know, Proggy on Twitter, said, trying to stay away from the US until they get their shit together. Exchange rate doesn't help. Was going to make an exception because I've never been to Portland and I've always wanted to go, but not at this time of year. If it was in the summer, I probably would have gone.
Yeah.
And that's fair as well. I was kind of looking at like what the temperature is going to be down there. It's going to be warmer than it is here by about 5 degrees, but yet it's still going to be a little bit chilly. The Bowman Daily says he thinks there'll be a lot of empty seats at BC Place this season, never mind going down to away games. And I guess that's the one to watch, because away games, it's great to have a travelling support. I totally get why people don't want to go because of the political situation down there. This I mentioned in the last show. I've got everything booked. It's non-refundable, so I'm going. Otherwise, I'm pissing away a lot of money. But this might be my last trip for a while. I have to see how everything goes as well. But it's the home games that's going to be interesting, because the home opener you would hope is going to have, it's LA Galaxy. It's a Sunday. That should be a good crowd. But it's the games after that, and that will be telling as to what the interest is. Of course, a lot of it lies on how well the team are doing. If they start off with a bang, folk are more excited to watch it. If they start struggling, it then becomes a harder sell again. Yeah,
no, you're not wrong. And 1 p.m. is a little bit difficult if you want to go make a day of it. Obviously, it's doable.
It's doable.
I used
for the side effect, you're not going to have any border issues.
Yeah. Well, I used to do Portland in a day, even with a 4 o'clock game or 7 o'clock game, or like
it's always the Tacoma to, well, I guess even the Federal Way, the Fife Federal Way to Olympia stretch. If that's clear for you, you can get down there in a 5.5, 6 hours even.
Oh, 5. You can do
Stopping,
5,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, pee break, coffee break.
No. What are you talking about? No, when you got to get to the football, Michael. I remember the days when I used to go from work. There'd be like a Sunday.
Oh, I remember.
Kickoff, and it'd be like, I gotta go. There's no, you just go. You're just going, man.
Yeah, but it's definitely changed days. So last thing, like, talking about the ownership, and a lot of this is just going to be paper talk. There's been something in the Daily Mirror over in the UK. There's been something in the Sun over in the UK that Ryan Reynolds is interested in buying the Whitecaps.
That's what I was referring to before. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if...
Isn't the link in the article basically Ben Steiner's article contemplating that or pushing for that? Or
yeah, I think it's just anything with Ryan Reynolds and to do with Wrexham gets clicks, gets folk to read it in the papers. They know that. There was something, I saw Glass City had retweeted someone that had got in touch with him, that some Austin fan on Reddit had bumped into Rod McElhenney at the Super Bowl in New Orleans and asked him if Ryan Reynolds was buying Vancouver, and he's like, oh, he's thinking about it. It's like, that's how all these things grow. I think it's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I'm sure Axel will be speaking at some point this week or next week as well. That is most definitely going to be some of the questions that come his way. So it's an interesting time for the Whitecaps. As I say, they're back on the pitch on Wednesday. We'll be there. We'll get some interviews. We'll bring you some audio in the next show. That's it for the Whitecaps chat for this part. But I mentioned that we were going to bring you Hot Chocolate Boy a little bit later in this part. So strap on in. There's another 2 reviews coming.
Hot Chocolate Boy. He's never had one. Hot chocolate bad one. Hot Chocolate Boy.
Welcome to the penultimate edition of Hot Chocolate Boy for 2025, and I'm joined once again for this recap by Hot Chocolate Girl herself, my lovely wife, Caitlin.
Hi, everyone.
And we've got a double dose of Hot Chocolate Festival visits to recap for you this time around. It's the 15th year of the Vancouver Hot Chocolate Festival, and we're going to kick things off by a little trip that we had on Wednesday. And it wasn't the trip that we had planned. We'd planned to go to Chez Christophe. I mentioned it in the show last week. Last time, we went at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and they were sold out. So we went at 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, and guess what? They were sold out, so we've given up on them. So we're not going to try for a third time to be disappointed. But it did let us get to another one that was on our list. We weren't sure how many of our long list that we were going to get to before the festival wraps up on Valentine's Day. So it was a return visit for us. We went back to live for the famous vegan bakery on Nanaimo Street in Vancouver. We were there for their first offering, the hot buttered rum meets stroop waffle that was running from January 18th to 31st. We always wanted to go back for the second one. It's running from February 1st to the 14th. It's number 160 in the festival guide. It's the cinnamon bun and cream cheese in a cup. A fragrant hot chocolate made with the actual cinnamon bun brown sugar pan sauce that they use to make their cinnamon buns, which we've had before, and they are delicious. The hot chocolate was topped with whipped cream, and the pied de resistance was a delicious cream cheese drizzle, and it was served with a moist bite of cinnamon monkey bread with cream cheese icing. It came in at a cost of $10.75, 50 cents cheaper actually than their hot buttered rum offering from earlier in the festival, and it was absolutely delicious, Caitlin.
Yes, it was. I particularly enjoyed the vegan whipped cream topping, and especially the little monkey bread cake that was topped with a really lovely crunchy sugar topping and their vegan butter spread, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, it was a really nice treat. Small, but tasty, and that's kind of at least what you want. I mean, I've said this before. For me, the treat is as important, if not more important, than the actual hot chocolate. If it's not a nice treat, I'm not going to go. And both the hot chocolates were very good to live for. Highly recommend this one. I think the biggest compliment I can give it is you're drinking it, and in no way, shape or form can you tell that it's dairy-free and vegan.
Yeah, that's true. I remember mentioning to you that I enjoyed the vegan whipped cream on the way home, and you were like, oh my God, I totally forgot that it was even vegan until you just said that.
Yeah, and like we go there a lot, so we know it's a vegan bakery, and it's just, when you have their stuff there, it just doesn't click that is a vegan bakery. So that one is highly recommended. You can find them at 1508 Nanaimo Street in Vancouver. They're open daily from 7 till 5. So the second visit we had on Friday, we headed to Commercial Drive for number 69. Nice. In the festival hot chocolate guide, bananas in pyjamas from another vegan bakery as well. This is the vegan episode of Hot Chocolate Boy. And it's a banana bread hot chocolate topped with coconut whipped cream, house-made caramel drizzle and chocolate shavings, served with a shortbread thumbprint cookie with a caramel pecan centre, which I don't think the cookie was maybe what was described, because I mean, we were talking about this. We think of a thumbprint cookie as round with kind of a thumbprint indentation in the middle and the pecan centre, but this was more like just a shortbread finger with a little bit of the caramel pecan at the top.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised and confused by the cookie, because like what Michael just said, I was expecting a round cookie with a thumbprint and maybe a dollop of caramel in the middle with a pecan sitting on top of it. But I enjoyed the shortbread cookie, even because I'm not a big fan of shortbread, so I know it wasn't the traditional shortbread texture. But because I don't like shortbread, I was happy with this. It was tasty to me. But I particularly liked the very banana-y flavor of the hot chocolate. I think this was up there, possibly tying number one spot for hot chocolate-wise.
Yeah, next week's show, we'll give our kind of top 3 of the visits that we've done over the festival. And I would say for the hot chocolate, it's probably in the top 3 for me, coming in maybe at number 3, I think. I loved how banana-y it was. It was just, it was so good. It really, really was good. And again, you could not tell that it was a dairy-free and a vegan offering. It was just so tasty, so creamy, very delicious. As I said, very banana-y. I was, though, disappointed with the treat. As Caitlin said, it wasn't your traditional shortbread. I didn't like it. It was very gummy. I didn't think it had enough sweetness to it. And if we were doing combined hot chocolate and treat, that would push it out of the top 3 for me. But if the hot chocolate is the key thing for you, I would definitely go and get that. And a nice little addition as well, we should mention, Caitlin, because it's not mentioned in the description of it, is it came with a banana skewer, 4 slices of banana on a toothpick that you could dip into your chocolate, which I dipped a little bit too much, mine fell off, but it actually made it even more banana-y, and as it's coated in the creamy hot chocolate, absolutely delicious.
Yeah, I enjoyed the banana aspect too, and I managed to keep all my banana bits on the skewer and not have them fall into the hot chocolate. But again, it was something else that you could dip into the hot chocolate to enjoy. And I particularly liked the thickness of the hot chocolate. It was really thick and really creamy, and as I said, up there for top for me.
Came in at a price of $11.50, so not the cheapest, not the most expensive, but well worth it. Highly recommend it. It's a lovely little cafe as well, Eternal Abundance. You can find them at 1025 Commercial Drive. It's to the north end of Commercial Drive, just before you get to Venable Street. They are open 7 days a week, 10 to 6, Monday 10 to 7, Tuesday to Sunday, so you can check those out. So that is it for our penultimate edition of Hot Chocolate Boy. We've got one more to come. There'll be 2 more visits to talk about, and we'll bring you that in the next episode of the AFTN Soccer Show.
Every girl yelling, wanting him to be the terror. Hot chocolate boy, he's a sensation. Hot chocolate chocolate nation, hot chocolate boy.
So a vegan hot chocolate boy this show, Zach. 2 vegan entries that we had, both very nice in their own way. And I know you've not made it out to yours yet, but you do hope to get out to Cafe Artigiano this coming week.
This is the week. Yeah, this is the week it's supposed to happen.
It has to, because it finishes on Valentine's Day.
That's right, exactly. This is the week it is happening. I'm excited for it.
Yes, we'll get your thoughts on that on the next show. So that is pretty much it for the first part of this episode. But we've got a treat coming for you now. We're going to keep the Whitecaps chat going. I've mentioned we've been looking to sit down with new Whitecaps head coach Jesper Sørensen for our first one-on-one interview with the new Danish coach. Got to do that on Thursday before their final pre-season game, and we'll be back with that after this episode song from our album of the month.
Hi, I'm Ali Ahmed. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM, broadcasting from the unceded Musqueam territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. And a reminder, this is our special fund drive episode, CITR Radio's annual fundraising event, the 2025 edition, trying to raise money to have a new website and archive a lot of the Discorder content from many years gone by. The goal is $20,000. If you can contribute anything towards that, head over to donate to CITR.ca, mention AFTN as the show that sent you there, and give anything you can. Every little helps. And kicking off this part of the show, it's the first song of 2 we're going to play tonight from our album of the month for February. English band from Stourbridge in the West Midlands, Pop Will Eat Itself. And the album of the month is their debut from 1987, Box Frenzy. And that was track 8 on the album, She's Surreal. Do you know what else would be surreal? If Whitecaps' new head coach Jesper Sørensen can do what we felt this team was capable of last year and take the Whitecaps into a long playoff run, maybe even all the way to a Western Championship, maybe even all the way to the MLS Cup. We won't get too far ahead of ourselves. A lot of work needs to be done and a lot of football needs to get played before we can get to that stage of proceedings. And he hasn't even kicked a ball in anger yet. But the pre-season at least wrapped up with 4 games played, 2 victories, 1 draw, 1 defeat, 2 clean sheets as well in the last 2 games. So as we talked about in the last part, it's been showing progression. It's been great to see. And there is a lot of pressure on the shoulders of the 51-year-old Dane. He's come in after spending his whole playing and managerial career in Denmark, but he did very well with Brøndby, coming within a whisker of winning the Danish Championship in 2023. And for many people, Jesper Sørensen is still a bit of an enigma. Nobody really knows too much about the man. Nobody really knows too much about what his coaching style is going to be, what he will do to this Whitecaps team, how will the team play. And I've been looking forward to having my first sit-down chat with Jesper, and we managed to do that last week. We did the interview just before the last game of the preseason over in Marbella. And with the team heading back to Vancouver this week, there's going to be lots of chances to chat to Jesper about tactics, how he sees the team playing, various aspects of that. So what I wanted to more do in my half hour with him was kind of introduce him to you, the fans, you, the listeners, the man behind the coach that you see on the touchline. What makes him tick? What ignited his love in football? Talking a little bit about his footballing journey to now. And, of course, touching on the modern day Whitecaps, what he's learned so far, what he might be expecting going into this first MLS season, and the first competitive game that's coming up on February 20th in the CONCACAF Champions Cup against top Costa Rican side Saprissa. So a lot to chat about with Jesper. Zach and me will pack a lot of it in the next part. So go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice, and sit back and enjoy our first one-to-one with new Whitecaps head coach Jesper Sørensen. Jesper, thank you for joining us for the first time on the show. I'm sure it's been a whirlwind 4 weeks for you so far. How is life as a Vancouver Whitecap treating you?
It's been treating me very well. We've been on a training camp here in Marbella the last 3 weeks, or ever since we saw each other in Vancouver, and it's been a very good camp with first of all, for me to get to know everybody, get to know players, people around, staff, everybody. So it's been a good way for me to get into the whole Vancouver Whitecaps family here. So it's been a very pleasant and good 3 weeks.
Are you just kind of itching for the season to get started now, or have you been quite grateful to have this kind of month to get to know everyone so you're not thrust right into a competitive game right away?
I think it was very good that we had a preseason to work on the stuff that we would like to do and how we would like to approach the game. Of course, I'm looking forward to the season to start. It's why we are building up in preseason. That's why we are pushing the players a little bit extra. It's because we are excited about what's going to happen when the season starts. But I also know that as a coach, you always have extra things that you would like to have prepared and stuff like that. But it will be exciting. I'm looking forward for the season.
Now, but we'll talk a little bit about the season to come, what you've learned so far towards the end of this. But I want to kind of take you way back and just let fans and listeners just find out a little bit kind of about you yourself, really, as a person, as a man that's been around football for so many years now. I mean, your whole career was obviously in Denmark up to this point. So it's a new adventure, it's new surroundings, and you've come to a very different league. And even within the league, as I'm sure you know, and everyone's told you, there's so many different facets to it, and atmospheres and temperatures and weather. But when you look at this, it's a big journey for you. Has there been any part of you that you've said to yourself, oh, what have I done here?
Yes, yeah, I think I think yes, of course. There's been moments, but I've been very happy and glad for the decision made by both me and the Whitecaps that I should be the new coach here. Of course, it is. It is quite different than what I'm used to. It's also a little bit away from where I used to be, and also from home. It's 9 hours difference now. We have a nice morning here in Marbella. You are probably back at night, a little bit
Yes.
behind here. So
Yeah, it's -2 here at the moment.
yeah, we're a little better off here, but but I think it's a huge adventure. It's a very interesting job. The league is very interesting. I think it's fascinating with all the different teams, with all the difference you have within just one league. I'm not used to that. Normally, I'm from Europe, right? Then you have the way you play football is like one way in Germany. It's another way in Spain, and then we have the way we are playing it in Denmark normally, and it's in the MLS you have a lot of difference just within the league, and I think that's very interesting and also fascinating, also from a professional football mindset and mind standpoint. I think it's a great challenge and a big challenge as well. So I think it's going to be interesting. I have tried to prepare myself for what is coming, because it is quite different. We start out, for instance, in Costa Rica, which is, I imagine, not -2 at the moment. And then we go directly to Portland, and then things will head off from there. And I think that it's already, to begin with, it's clear that it's going to be something different than I'm used to.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in Denmark, born in Aarhus, the second largest city in the country, when did you get the football bug? When did you know that was what you wanted your career to be?
Of course, early on I got the bug. That was just as a kid playing and having most of my day going by with playing football and together with my friends, and every day just run around. But that's not the same as if you know that this is what you are going to make a living of. First, you just have dreams and hopes, and you not really think about what's going to happen. You just live in the moment, and then things start to evolve. And I have always been fascinated with sports and with football and in general. And when I started playing, I had a more than normal interest within the game, not just for playing, but also within the game. When I looked at my teammates, it was a few of us had more interest in the game than maybe some of the others. And then after when I could see that now it's close to the end for playing, I always been fascinated by what you could do as a coach and stuff like that. So I would say not directly after I stopped playing, because then I started studying on university, studied economics at the University of Aarhus, and made a bachelor's degree there. But then I got the call from my former club if I would like to be an assistant coach for their first team, and I jumped into it. And ever since I've been back in football and as a coach, and I've been happy for that decision. I think it's a very unique and wonderful game, and yeah, I still find it fascinating and interesting to see if you can get new ideas, if you can still learn from the game actually. So still study the game and be a better version of the coach you already are.
I mean, signing for your hometown team, like, did you go and watch Aarhus as a kid? Like, was that your team? Yeah.
Always.
So what was it like then, signing for your hometown team?
It was of course special. It was also very natural because I was a big talent when I was playing youth football. So it was like the way the path was just heading there. But of course it was special also representing my team, the team that I was playing youth football for. I was a ball boy when they were playing with the first team when I was 10, 12 years old sometimes, and then developing into a player that they could use. And I could play for them. It was of course a very big thing, and then the career taken off from there, and taken me lots of places. Of course, that's special.
All I know from your playing career, from my research, is that you were a midfielder. So what kind of player were you? Were you an attacking midfielder, defensive midfielder? Were you a hard man, a tough tackling midfielder?
I was more, to begin with, it changed. You change also a little bit during your career. But to begin with, I was this playmaker type, technically strong, with good vision of the game, not particularly fast. I would say. I don't think that anybody else would say that as well. So I was more endurant and like a diesel engine in the center of the pitch, where I could distribute for my teammates and also create chances for them. Later on in my career, I became more defensively, both in midfield. I also played left back. For a while, I played in the midfield, central defense for a while as well. So I was never the big goal scorer. So I would say that I just dropped a little bit lower in the pitch as years gone by. Maybe I also started playing a little bit harder and tougher. I don't know, but I was not considered a guy that was, the toughest on the pitch.
When I think of Danish football, like I guess nowadays, if you said to somebody, "Oh, what do you think of Danish football?" Most folk will probably say Eriksson. Some folk might say Jesper Schmeichel. When I think of Danish football, because I'm a few years older than you, so I remember the Danish team that won the Euros. I think of the Laudrup brothers, because obviously Brian played in Scotland for a while, and like Peter Schmeichel, that's the players that I think of. Who was your kind of footballing hero growing up? Because I know Denmark didn't make the World Cup to 1986. So was there specific Danish players that you looked up to that you were like, oh, I want to be them. I want to model my game on them. These are the kind of players that I want to be when I'm older.
There were Danish players. There were foreign players. There were players like Michael Laudrup, Søren Lerby. They played on the 86 team. 84, they also went to the Euros, came to the semifinals. Those midfield players. Frank Andersen was a hero of mine as well. The biggest hero in football for me at that point was Michel Platini, who played for France. But that was the kind of players that I admired and emulated, the attacking midfield players, that score goals, but also be distributing for the other players as well. So that was Frank Andersen from Denmark. Yeah, I know if I mentioned, but Allan Simonsen as well. That was when I was a kid. They were the big heroes and stars in Danish football, and then you had some of the stars from outside. I've been Juventus fan most of my life, and that's mainly because of Michel Platini and Michael Laudrup. It started out with Platini, and then Laudrup came as well.
Like I remember watching, and obviously Brian Laudrup did so well in Scotland, but I remember that '92 Euro win, and like in Scotland, in the 70s and 80s, we kind of punched above our weight for a small country. And then I think there's always been a little bit of we look at Denmark as they're a country the same size as us, and they've qualified for 6 of the last 10 World Cups, and we've been in 2 of those, I think. And it's like, I don't know what happened to us, but as a nation, Denmark just always seems to be like producing players and maybe punching above what folk are expecting for a small country.
Yeah, I think that's to be true. To be honest, at least the last 40 years since 84, when we qualified for the Euros, and we kicked the door in for the Europeans and World Cup competitions, we've done pretty well. We have had, I believe, we've profited from very good connection between the clubs and the FA, where we've had very progressive minds, bringing people together and sharing ideas. We're very open about what we're doing. I also been under 21 national team coach, and back then we also did a lot together with the clubs to work together with them, to share knowledge, not to just keep it for ourselves, but to share knowledge and also look at trends and see if we could facilitate a lot for the clubs, so we could get the talent programs in the clubs to become even better, and the academies to work at the highest level. And I think there has become a very good talent system, and the academies are working very well with bringing up new talents and working with them, which generates new players. All the time we see players coming with good quality, playing around Europe. Lastly, we just saw this Patrick Dorgo go from Lecce to Manchester United, a young Danish player as well. Rasmus Højlund there as well. So there seems to be always new players coming, and we don't take it for granted either. We always try to look ahead and see how can we become better and do it even better. And we are a small country like Scotland, population-wise, and we need to get a lot out of, not as much. So that's also the way we think, that we need to see to get a lot out of not that many people. You can compare a little bit to Croatia, maybe in football terms. You have those kind of spots that actually are doing quite well. And also over a significant time because a team can do well within a generation of players, but actually I think we've managed to do better over a long period, and I think that's pretty admirable for the guys that was there before me, and they also taught me a lot. Coaches, and both when I was a player and also as a coach myself, I learned a lot from some of the guys that were there before me.
When they won the Euros in '92, you were, I think, 19, if my math is right. I mean, that must have been such an exciting time as a player, because it's like you're involved with the national team program as well at that youth level, and it just must have given you a buzz just as a player to just push on with your own career.
It was a big thing. It was, of course, a big thing. I was 18, turning 19. I just turned 19, I think, during the Euros. I played with one of the guys that played in the Euros at Aarhus, and of course that was special for everybody, and it was also animating us to wanted to do more, and also it opened the door for what actually could be doable, because something was reaching the Euros or reaching the World Cups, but actually believing it could happen. I remember the team we had in '86 was probably the best team we had. Played very, very well in Mexico, but fell short to Spain. And I know back then that they were all celebrated, but the players were really not that happy, that they thought they could have won. And as a small country, that was just ridiculous talk at that moment, because we were not used to be at the World Cups. So when they did it in '92, and that was also a complete unreal story, to be honest, then it opened the door for future generation players to actually believe that this could happen, like what happened with Greece, right, in 2004.
Yeah,
that could happen for a small country. So it's of course something that really pushes you on and gets you extra motivated, and and is inspiring for you.
Yeah, it's
Like
you
I
need.
would imagine it could be for US, Canada, Mexico now having to host World Cup, believing they can go far, maybe take it all the way.
Yeah, and then you have the eyes of the world on you as well. I mean, you touched on this a little bit at your introductory press conference, but what kind of coaches or who have been the coaches that's kind of shaped you along the way as well? Like who do you look up to? Who do you admire in the world of coaching?
Of course, you have the guys you work with and you've seen before you where you got up close, but the inspirations from other, what would you say, places like when you've seen football from other countries and stuff like that. Marcelo Bielsa was a guy that I admired for the way he approached things with the teams he got. I remember it was especially with Chile and Bilbao. I saw how they played and how they approached the game. Diego Simeone, another guy that do it a quite different way, but has been lasting in a very, very difficult place in Atletico Madrid and doing it his way. Not the football that I usually try to get the team to play, but really a guy that understands how to get the best of his player out of his players and also get his players with him. Guardiola has done amazing things where he's been. Jurgen Klopp has done amazing things where he's been. But the first, I think I really started to look into how is he doing, what is his method. That was Marcelo Bielsa.
Now, everything's been quite positive so far. I want to touch on this, but not too much, just because I'm just curious more than anything. So at Brøndby, obviously there was not the current season, but last season it went down to the last game.
Yeah.
To lose the championship to the club that you supported, like what were the emotions like on that last day for you? I just can't imagine what that must have been like.
Yeah, it was devastating, honestly, and who it was to was actually didn't matter to me. We had a very good run. I came in 18 months before, 17 months before, and we were number 10, and it's a 12 team league, and we set out to first of all to see if we could get the team stabilized and then see how we could get to be competitive in the Danish league, fighting for maybe European spots and championships, and then 17 months later, just having a game where you have it all in your hands at home, you can become champions the last day, and then falling up short, it was unbearable for all the fans and for the players and for me as well. It was a very tough day to get through. As a coach, of course, you always have to be the one that also is in front of your players, even when it goes wrong, and in front of the club, and that's obviously a thing. But it was tough. It was tough. There was all this excitement, all this hype leading up to the game. There was a lot of hope, a lot of, expectations. Everybody was almost already celebrating, and then we fell out short, came up short, and it was pretty tough. It was tough on the players. It was tough on me, of course, the staff, everybody, and it was very tough on the fans. You got this close, but I also told the players right after the game that even though it hurts, and it really hurt a lot, and it will, of course, still. When you remind me, it hurts, of course, still. And but
I know I didn't really want to bring it up, especially in our first chat, but
it doesn't matter because it's not something that we should shy away from.
No, it's how you grow, and it makes you. Then it lights a fire under you as well.
Yeah, it's it can also make you exhausted and say, "Wow, do I really have to climb that mountain again to get back there?" and that's two different things, right? So I told them after the game that even though it hurts and probably would do it for a long time, we should not shy away from the fact that we ended up being in a place where we actually could win the championship and had it in our own hands, and that's better than not being there. We should always fight for getting there, and then when it's sports and football, you put all in, and then sometimes you get the biggest reward, and sometimes you come up short. And last season, if anybody has told us that we would become second and win silver medals, everybody would have said that would be amazing. But we didn't win silver medals. We just lost gold. So that was just the difference. And also after that, you can become motivated. You can also start doubting and just put in little small ideas of doubts and start not to trust each other that much. And that's the two ways that actually go. And I think that it was a difficult thing when players came back just to go full ahead. A lot of them was still exhausted, and it's not for and now I tried. You have this Super Bowl hangover thing they talk about in American football. And there can be a hangover, definitely.
Yeah, I've been through it on a much smaller scale from a fan point of view, and it sticks with you forever. And it's those little moments that just haunt you forever. But let's finish with a couple of positive things. Sorry to take the mood right down there. So I've only got
no worries.
Couple of little things just to ask you to end this. You've had the team now in Spain for a couple of weeks, as my dog decides to just do a turn in the background there. You've seen growth, I think, in the games. We're recording this just before the last game of the preseason, but you've seen growth. How prepared do you feel the team is for the Saprissa game? It's a long trip. It's a hostile place. You're used to European competition, at least, with the experience in the Conference League, but it's quite a baptism of fire for you for your very first game in charge.
Yeah, I really don't know what to expect. I think down in Saprissa, but I think that we are getting there. I think that the team is working very good. The players have been brilliant. They've been open to everything we've come in and I come in to start working with, and everybody is just doing everything they can. So I think it's been great. We are not where I want us to be yet, and that is not a thing we will make just to the first game. That's a continuous thing we have to work on. But the team is catching up, and I think that we are at a good spot, and I think that people are healthy. I have to cross my fingers here, but they're healthy so far,
yes.
And that's a good thing. And players are ready to go. I can see that they have a desire to get going and get the season started.
Do you have in your head pretty much what your starting 11 is going to be, or do you still need to see some more from the players in the next little couple of days and I guess week and a half, 2 weeks?
No, I don't have a starting lineup in my head. Of course, I have an idea, but I would say for me it's very important that we don't just have a starting lineup. We're going to play 2.5 days afterwards in Portland, and there will be a lot of players involved. We will not put up 2 different teams, but we will definitely mix it up, because first game in Costa Rica will be special. Also how hard and tough it's going to be, also with the temperatures down there. So for me, it's very important that everybody is in the mix, that we have a lot of players in the mix that can help and know what to do and what the tasks are. That's the most important thing.
It's a tough start. aside from the Saprissa games, you've Portland, then LA Galaxy, the champions come to visit. So, I mean, it couldn't have been a much tougher start for you. Are you somebody that feels that kind of pressure? Because new to the job, you're replacing a coach that a lot of fans loved for his personality, maybe more than what he had on the pitch at times, it has to be said. But like, do you feel that pressure coming in that you have to get off to a strong winning start, or immediately folk will be comparing you to the man that went before you?
That will always be the case, no matter what. That you'll be compared to what was before you. That's always how it is. No, I don't think that the pressure is mounting up yet. Of course, the pressure is a competitive pressure, always, to try to win. And of course, when we go to Saprissa, it's for giving us a very good standpoint for the second game, a game where we will hopefully be able to finish off business at home. Right? That's what we go to Saprissa for, and then of course to Portland to get a good start of the league competition. So that's what we're heading out for. But you know. Normally, a season is long. It's a long and winding road. It's not just a straight ahead road. So we will be having ups and downs, but we will just believe in the way we're going to do it, and we will be on the way, constantly, hopefully improving. That's what we have to.
Yeah, it's a long MLS season. Sometimes it feels longer than others, just the way that things play out.
Yeah.
Last thing, what are you most looking forward to once you get back to Vancouver, once you get started really properly in the job? What's the big thing that you're really looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to playing in front of our fans, of course. Hope that we can inspire them and play a kind of football that they would like to see, and also they can support. That's what I'm looking most forward to see.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jesper. I'll see you at training next week. I'll be down in Portland as well. Enjoy the last couple of days of the hot weather, because it's really snowy here.
We will. You did a great job. We'll get the best out of it.
That's great. Thank you, Jesper, and we'll talk soon. The great Dane himself, Jesper Sørensen there. I really enjoyed that chat with Jesper, getting to know him a little bit, getting to find out about the man, his journey, his love for football, his coaching background, just what he's learned through the game these last few years, and who has been his motivating factors along the way, from a child first kicking a ball in our house to becoming the head coach that he is today. So a lot to talk about, I think, coming out of that one. And I know there's going to be some folk that were listening to that and they were wanting a bit more Whitecaps chat. Don't worry, that is going to be coming. We're going to be talking to Jesper at training this week as well. So we'll bring you some more stuff in the more tactical side of what he's looking to do with the Whitecaps this coming season. That will be to come, as will be us delving into a few of the things that he did say there. So we'll be back doing just that after the second song this episode from our album of the month.
Hi, I'm Jesper Sørensen, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show, the best show there is.
Could you be the one I'm waiting for? Oh, Evelyn. When I drink alone, I think of you. When I think alone, I drink to you. Oh, Evelyn. Oh, Evelyn. Oh, Evelyn. pretty and I have never seen eye to eye with you on anything. Oh, Evelyn. But could you be the one I'm waiting for? Could you be the one I'm hoping for? Oh, Evelyn. With this glass in my hand and you're almost forgotten. To return tomorrow like these empty bottles. Oh, Evelyn. Oh, Evelyn. Empty bottles always bring me down. Empty glasses make a lonely sound. Oh, Evelyn. You could have been the one I waited for. Could have been the one that I hoped for. Oh, Evelyn. So raise up your glass at this unhappy hour. To razor blade kisses so sweet and so sour. Oh, Evelyn. Oh, Evelyn.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, and kicking off this part, it's the second song from our album of the month for this episode. English band Pop Will Eat Itself, their debut album Box Frenzy, that was released in 1987, and that is the sixth track on it, one of the many what I class as love songs on the album, Zach. That was Evelyn. When I think alone, I drink to you. When I drink alone, I think of you, Evelyn. I mean, what's not to love about that? Especially with Valentine's Day coming up.
Oh, Michael.
Let's just hope there's not folk drowning their sorrows with the Whitecaps this season, and all the drinking that is getting done is celebrating victories. And the man that will be responsible for getting the Whitecaps to that state is head coach Jesper Sørensen, the Great Dane himself. And a good chat with him there in the last part. And as I mentioned in the intro to it, I know there's not a lot of chat in that half hour on the current Whitecaps situation, but we've all addressed some of that this week at training. But as we were just talking about, it's hard when all you're seeing is little clips, and you know he doesn't want to give too much away, but I mean it's definitely chats that we'll have, because he's already said he's very fluid and he's not tied to one formation, which is great.
Yeah, I look forward to like a mid-season sit down with them or something where you have some stuff to reflect on in terms of the performance and the approach and the tactics and all that kind of stuff. But I know I found the conversation very engaging, and I thought you asked some really good questions. And I think people have had an opportunity to get an insight to him as a person and as a coach and as a footballer. And I thought it was really great.
That's the main thing I wanted to try and get from it. I love doing those kind of interviews. It's like just going back through folks' careers. I love doing the long interviews. Jesper was very generous with his time as well, and hopefully it does give a bit of insight to the fans as the man bit behind the coach that you see. Now he's very different to Vanny. He's very thoughtful. Yeah. It's like you hear with his answers, he's pausing, he's thinking of what he's going to say. He's a student of the game. I mean, that comes through in all the chats that he's done, but particularly chatting to him there. And he still studies and he still learns and strives to be an always better version of the coach that yesterday, which is what you want to hear in all aspects of their life. Everyone should strive to be the best they can be and improve on what they are. And I like when he said he's always had a more than normal interest in the game. Mm-hmm. He's clearly a guy that lives and breathes football.
Totally, yeah.
When I saw his resume on Wikipedia and other stuff, and there had been a gap I knew he'd hung up his boots in 2006 and didn't coach to 2009. So I was like, oh, maybe he played like non-league somewhere and it's just not registered. I didn't know he'd gone off to university to get a degree in economics.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And like you said, like a student of the game, and like I enjoyed when, as you talked to him about his influences and obviously some of the big things from, you know, big Danish sides over the years and big Danish players over the year, which we'll talk about more in a little
Yeah. Now, undoubtedly and unfairly, I think he is going to be compared to Vanny both on and off the pitch. Now, on the pitch, it is fair because you're always going to get compared to the coach that went before you, especially playoffs. Does he make it? Does he get higher than Vanny? Does he get lower than Vanny? Does he win the Canadian Championship? Does he not win the Canadian Championship? So there will always be those comparisons. He knows that. Axel knows that, because if things weren't to work out, Axel knows the questions at the end of the year is going to be, was it worth getting rid of Vanny? And we can't answer that. I still think, yes, it's worth trying to get that new voice in there. And the players that I've spoken to so far, and interviews that you see up on the Whitecaps social media, they all seem to have bought in to what Jesper is trying to do. And they all seem to really like the vibe that is with the team right now under him. I think,
which is understandable. I mean, they're not going to come out and be like, yeah, I'm not super excited. You know, like they're kind of talking about things the way they should, and it's encouraging, and, you know, backing this new thing.
Well, yeah, I guess they can't come out and say, "Oh, I don't like this."
Yeah, I think you have some of that in the within the fan base, right, where they are excited about a new chapter, and some who are still sad that the last one ended.
Yeah, and I think where the unfair criticism is going to come in is going to be off the pitch and his personality.
Yeah,
I love chatting to him there. We had a good laugh. We chatted a bit before as well, and a little bit after. And like if you watch Sarita's chat with him as well on the YouTube channel, he's quite open. He's relaxed. He doesn't know any of us yet to kind of be all like, "Oh, I'm your best friend ever. I'll just open up and chat about everything and crack jokes all day long." But fans will say, "Oh, he's not like Van. He's not that big personality off the pitch. He's not getting sent to the stand. He's not screaming at linesmen. He's not going crazy. He's not giving weird quotes and going on about God and socialism and cats and Batman and Robin." That's not a bad thing. Yeah. Like, ultimately, you want your coach to be the guy that has a winning team on the pitch. And like Alex Ferguson wasn't the most jovial, jokey person off the pitch. Most successful manager there's been in the UK and Scotland and England when you combine it. Jock Stein, just to go to another Scottish guy, wasn't Mr. Jokes. I was going to say Bill Shankly as well. I'm just picking Scottish examples here, and obviously Denmark, Scotland, very, very similar countries. But I mean, that is going to be unfair if he is judged for not being like that. It'll be interesting to see how much things like One Soccer and MLS take an interest in the Whitecaps, because they loved Vanny because of the entertainment factor that he brought them.
Yeah, these are such complete different personalities that you're right. It's a measuring stick that can only be unfairly used against him, and you have to not do that. You have to evaluate him on his personality and how that inspires and influences the team and the performances and moves the club forward. So, yeah, I get the sense that he, for the most part, isn't going to care about that.
I don't think so either.
It's going to be something that everyone else has to get over.
Yeah, he's quite laid back, almost laconic at times, and he's got a wry sense of humour, which I like. I like a wry, I like a dry sense of humour, and he's definitely got that. The big question for me right now, though, is how patient will the fans be with him? Will they give him time? And at least it's not like over in the UK where you're baying for manager's blood within a couple of games. Now, there will be some here that do that. It's how patient that they will be. I guess we'll find out soon.
Yeah, you're right. That will be interesting to see. And the one thing that there's all these factors that he doesn't control that will influence this, right? How quickly does Stuart Armstrong's DP slot get filled? What happens with the sale? There's all those things that will make fans frustrated or excited or whatever, and that he has no control over, but he will, like you said, end up taking a bunch of abuse over it, because that's just kind of how things play out in sports.
Of course, it might not come to that if they get off to a strong start. Then it's all Vanny's forgotten very quickly. It's all like football's always like, what have you done for me lately kind of thing. I've been bad for it over the years. I've learned, I've matured as I've got older. I've spoken before some of the abuse that I've given these 5 managers and my fanzine and stuff over the years in the past. You look back at it and you're like, ooh, glad there wasn't social media back in those days for sure, or phones. But I mean, he's tried to prepare for the intricacies and the differences in MLS. Until you experience it, I don't really think you can. And we've seen that with players. Some players think they can hack stuff, and then it gets, I'm not just talking about here in Vancouver, but throughout the league. And it's like, oh, this is tough. It's a lot more traveling. It's a lot of different environments. You can be in the baking heat one week and then snow, cold the next week. So he will learn all this as it goes on. But he's not, although his whole career playing and coaching has been in Denmark, he's not a not well-travelled man. He's lived in Canada before.
Yeah.
So there's that as well, and he loves it here, and I think he'll be just fine. But it is going to be a tough start. You've got the 2 Champion Cup games against Saprissa. The first 5 MLS games are Portland, Galaxy, Montreal, Dallas, Chicago, Toronto. That's a tough start.
Yeah, there's, I think, potential in Dallas and Chicago maybe being a little bit lighter for him, but Portland.
I don't know. Dallas now are starting to add some strong pieces. They're heavily linked, as are San Jose Earthquakes. It's the 2 teams that are having talks with Cincinnati's Lucho Acosta, the league's former MVP.
Who wouldn't want Luciano Acosta on their team?
I know. The reason Cincinnati want to get rid of him is they're wanting to bring in Portland's Evander, who's wanting out.
Oh.
That's a player I'd love here, but I cannot see the Timbers giving him to a Western rival, never mind a Cascadian one.
Phil Neville can't keep Evander happy.
I think that 5-0 defeat just sucked the life out of him.
Well, okay, but at this moment, I think Portland, LA, Montreal, Toronto are all naturally massive games.
Yeah.
Depending on how things work out with Chicago and Dallas's roster, those are maybe
the Bearhalter Derby.
Yeah, those are maybe a little bit not as difficult, but you're right. It's not an easy start to the season.
No, and as I mentioned, we'll find out more in the coming weeks, and we'll bring you some chat in the next show as well, about what we can maybe expect from his teams and stuff. Now, when he speaks about players that he has admired growing up, like Brian Laudrup, I always mentioned, but Michael Laudrup, his brother, the older brother, is a player that Sørensen loved. But Michel Platini, the player for him, and I don't know how much you really got to see of Platini. You're probably a little bit too young.
I've seen his jersey from the 86 World Cup.
Played against Canada, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little bit. And obviously I know his post career.
Yeah, I mean, Platini was an amazing player.
Wizard, yeah.
For France.
I have one game of his on DVD, I think. I think he was in that game. I have to go look at that. What year was that?
He was awesome in 82 and 86.
I think I have the 86 the game against Germany where Tony Schumacher.
With Battiston.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think I have that game on DVD from like Kicker magazine.
Yeah.
When it was
like France should have won the World Cup that year. They were so good. That was the World Cup I really. Though I've spoken before, like 78, I remember watching it on my little black and white TV. 74, I know I watched, but I've no recollections of it. The 82 one was the first one I was really, really into. Sticker albums, lots of souvenirs, watching all the games. And I've got so many of those games on VHS video. I should dig them out, get them playing. We should revisit the 82 World Cup. That's actually something I want to do next year for the 94 World Cup in our extra podcast, but that's for another time. But yeah, Platini was a baller. If he can get players with that kind of flair brought in to play for the Whitecaps, and that would be absolutely wonderful. I mean, he admires managers the likes of Bielsa, Simeone, Guardiola, Klopp. Interesting that he said, not necessarily for their style of play, because they play a style that he doesn't necessarily want to play, or what they got out of their players and the passion that they brought to the game, or do still bring to the game.
And those are very, like you said, there's some contrasting managers in there, right?
Yeah.
Simeone is very, very different than.
And he's passionate for sure.
Yeah.
As a player, as a manager. Of course, we touched on the heartbreak of Brøndby and that last. You can always count on Michael to bring up an interview. So your worst moment in football. Yeah, let's just bring the mood down absolutely here. Or your worst moment in coaching or whatever. It's like, things are going so well. I don't like this. Let's bring the mood down a bit. But I mean, football look at that as his moment in Brøndby. But he took that team from 10th, just above the relegation spots, to within a whisker of winning the title and getting into the Champions League. I was going to ask him this, but I knew time was running out because we'd spent so much talking about the Danish 92 team, and this, he kind of touched on it at his introductory presser. I don't think he was he got the fair respect and reward for what he'd done with that team. And then they get rid of him, and I think it still bristles a little bit. He felt he had more work to do there and maybe didn't get the chance to do it. Yeah, for sure. I know you feel like there's a lot spent on the 92 Danish team, but that team is so influential in Denmark. Yeah. Right? So, and you heard it from him as well there, right? Like it was a massive, massive thing. Look at that team, and it's like Schmeichel, the Laudrup brothers. Mm-hmm. It's just winning the Euros as a small country, and Greece did it a little bit later. When Greece did it, it was boring as hell football that won them it, but it won them it. Denmark won it, but with flair. And Denmark won it without qualifying, right? Or they were the replacement team for, was it Yugoslavia? Oh, yes. I'd forgotten about that aspect of it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's... and it was in Sweden as well, which helped. Yes, yeah. You're kind of almost on home soil. But the rise of Danish football, Jesper mentioned he feels it's because they are progressive and they're open to new ideas. But also that players that did well in 92 and even in the 86 World Cup, they went back and they shared what they learned with the clubs. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, you just keep all that to yourself. It's like you share it around the whole country. Yeah. And he's hoping that this can have a knock-on effect here in Canada with the World Cup in 2026. And that's what you're hoping for. That isn't the end of the golden era for Canada, that it just kickstarts it and we really push on from that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a World Cup can change things. Mm-hmm. And it has to. I mean, if we don't push on from this moment, it's not all been for nothing, but it's a complete waste. We've touched on this before. I don't think that would happen. I think with Jesse Marsh and Kevin Blue and the folk in Canada Soccer now, they will use it as a springboard. They will, because, I mean, we also can learn in this country from what happened with 2015, right? We have a Women's World Cup and things don't push on. And so then the players take things into their own hands and start doing what needs to be done to make it happen. So, I think you're right, though. With the current people in place in Canada, they won't let the opportunity be wasted, like it was at least partially with 2015. Slightly different subject, but like the under-17 CONCACAF qualifiers are on just now. And for anyone that isn't aware, the under-17 World Cup will now be held yearly in Qatar for the next few years. And it's expanded to 48 teams. So there's 8 teams from CONCACAF going through to that. And that'll be 8 teams every year from CONCACAF. So Canada should be at a World Cup every year. Be, at U17 level. Otherwise, something's gone very wrong. And that can only help as a springboard for the country as well. Totally. Because that's where we've kind of fallen flat. We've done well at qualifying and then fallen at the big stage, male and female level. Yeah. Last couple of things about what Jesper said there. Like, he doesn't know what to expect in this first game against Saprissa from his side. We don't either. Saprissa won't either, as we'll touch on in the next show. But he said these first 4 games, he is going to use the squad. It's not going to be wholesale changes. It's not going to be one team against Saprissa, one against Portland. But he has to mix it up. It's such a short turnaround, 2.5 days, and you're travelling from Costa Rica into Portland.
The timing of this is not helpful for Vancouver. The schedule making is not helpful to Vancouver. I'm grateful that the game in Vancouver is on a Thursday because it makes my life.
It's a perfect day for you.
But it's horrible. It's horrible for them. And even that the game in Costa Rica is also on a Thursday and not on the Wednesday or the Tuesday is just very, very unfortunate.
But I mean, he feels the team's getting there. And as we mentioned, the players are open to what he's trying to bring in. For some of them, it's going to be a big learning curve because, like, they've had Vanny for years and it's been drummed into them. You play this style, you do this, and this is exactly how I want to do it. And Vanny showed us everything pre-season, the big tactical thing as well. And they're going to have to switch away from that and learn from that. And it'll take a few games. But I'm excited to see what this season does. I really like the appointment. I think he's going to be a good appointment. You don't get to be a coach at a club like Brøndby, an under-21 national team coach, without having the skills. And yeah, my only thing to the fans would be patient. If things get off to a rough start, they will come good. A lot now, though, is on Axel to give Jesper some of these additional pieces that he most certainly needs.
You're not wrong there.
Tell you what else he could probably do with as well. It's a nice hot beverage and a sweet treat. Because we asked Jesper a lot of things in that last part, let's ask him one more thing. Does Jesper Sørensen fancy a chocolate digestive?
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it's unsuggestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
I'll warm you up with just something that we do whenever anyone comes to the Whitecaps. We always say on the show, you're not a Whitecap until you've answered this question. So it's just a fun one about food. So if you're sitting at home and it's morning, mid-afternoon, and you want to have a hot beverage, what is your hot beverage of choice? Do you go for a tea, a coffee, or something else?
Yeah, I would normally go for a coffee, but I also like a cup of tea. But normally I'll go for coffee.
Do you have a sweet tooth?
Yes.
What would be your kind of sweet treat of choice to have with your coffee?
That would be Danish.
Not stereotypical at all. Then just going for Danish. I mentioned to you after the introductory press conference that I'd never been to Denmark, but the closest I'd been to was Solvang in California. And I went to a Danish bakery there and had the little donuts with the jam in it.
Yeah, you can have that, yeah.
Yeah, they're like amazing.
You know what you call them in Denmark? You call them Berlins. Because I don't know if they're actually from Berlin, but you get them in Denmark frequently. But yeah.
Oh, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it's unsuggestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
Stunned Zach. No chocolate digestive for Jesper, but he does like a Danish. Yes, and I do love some Danish food. I do love a Danish. And as I mentioned as well, if you've ever get the chance to go to Solvang in California, it's a little Danish village. It's tremendous. Danish food, Danish bakeries, very unique experience. We went when we were down in Santa Barbara, and yeah, well worth seeing, as hopefully the Whitecaps will be under Jesper Sørensen this year. That is it, though, for the Whitecaps chat. It's not it for the football chat, with one more part to go as we turn our attention to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. A little bit of CPL chat and this episode's wavelength, and we'll be back with all of that after this episode's Britpop song.
I am Tommy Wheeldon Jr, and you are listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
What a cliche! Oh, I never want to see you again. Oh, so cliche, too much Spandex on the brain. Oh, if you believe your dreams will come true, then sleep is all you'll ever do. And if you think I'm gonna come to you, then go back to bed. Take my friends there too. In a sense, we're exactly the same, 'cause we're both so different in every way. In a sense, we're exactly the same. We're both so different in every way. In every way. It's a shame that you don't mean to see this way. Oh, it's a crying shame that what you do is the same as the same. Oh, someone told me that you really like me, but I fell asleep almost instantly. And in my sleep I dreamt that you found me. Now I found my feet, so come and run with me. In a sense, we're exactly the same, 'cause we're both so different in every way. In a sense, we're exactly the same. We're both so different in every way. In every way.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's a song you'll have heard before last year when we featured the band and their debut album as Album of the Month, English band Marion, with a song released on February 13th, 1995. It entered and peaked in the UK charts the following week at number 53. The song is called Sleep. And as I mentioned, former Album of the Month, This Mind and Body from 1996. We played that last year. That was the band's second single and the first one that was to be taken from that debut album. Still one of my favourite Marion songs. We'll be back with another Britpop song next week. A reminder, this is our Fund Drive episode, so you can head over to donate to CITR.ca if you can spare anything towards the $20,000 goal that CITR and Discorder magazine are trying to raise this year. Please do contribute. Some nice swag up for grabs as well if you do. And remember to tell them that AFTN sent you there. But we'll get back to the football chat now, and we'll start off by looking at the CONCACAF Champions Cup. It got underway this week, Zach. 2 Canadian clubs in action, 2 CPL teams. Kicked off on Wednesday, Forge battled hard, going down to a 2-0 defeat. 2 long-range bangers as well against Monterrey. So all to do in the second leg. It's going to be tough for Bobby Sminiotis' side. But the next day, history was made in Langford, Vancouver Island. Cavalry in their home from home. Probably not expecting it to be snowy when they had to play the game over on the island.
Didn't hurt.
Certainly did not hurt. And in the post-game press conference, it did not seem like the Pumas coach liked those conditions one little bit.
My Spanish is very limited, but yes, you could very easily pick up on that.
Yes, but the Cavs did Canada proud, coming away with a 2-1 come-from-behind victory against Pumas. Defensively resolute. Pushed hard after going down 1-0 just before half-time. The worst time to concede, 44th minute. Yeah. Santiago Lopez from in close after Marco Carducci produced the save. And at 1-0, I thought, that's game over. Well, I thought tie over more than game over because it was the away goal. And we know how killer that can be in the Champions Cup. But basing it on what Cavalry did against Orlando last year, where they conceded one, and Tommy touched on this post-game, they conceded one, then another, and then a third, and that was it over. Their heads went down. Half-time team talk clearly inspired them. They came out a different team in the second half. Charlie Trafford tied it up in the 57th minute, and then the winner in the 80th minute from Tobias Warszewski, which we'll come to in a sec. But what a difference from that Orlando game, and what fighting spirit to come back and get that 2-1 victory.
Yeah, it was a massive night for Canadian football, right? I mean, obviously there's a lot of Forge people who don't like Cavs, and probably some others in the country don't like Cavs. But whether you were supporting them or against them or whatever, you cannot take away from the fact of how significant this is for Canada. It's historical night, the first CPL club to get a victory in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, beating a Mexican team nonetheless to do it. Is huge. And yeah, you could see that. I mean, we know how good of a tactician and an inspirational kind of dude Tommy is and can be. So that, I think that was the case. But then you also, I think, like you said, saw that they learned from their experience last year. And
a year older, a year wiser, a year more experienced. And that's what these competitions will do for these clubs and these players.
And you can also see that I would say, if you look at the squads between now and then, they've also done some upgrading, right? Like, I think Jay Herdman plays a massive role in that game.
Oh, some great deliveries from him. Actually, crosses and set pieces in general from the Cavs were tremendous and really caused problems for Pumas.
Yeah. But yeah, special occasion. I got to watch. The Forge one I was working while it was on, so I couldn't watch it all live. But yeah, it was. I mean, you and I were messaging back and forth.
I was meant to be at the game, but I wasn't able to go over in the end. Absolutely gutted.
Yeah, it would have been fun.
I couldn't have made it over. At halftime, not so much. At full time, very much so.
Yeah, totally.
It'd have been great to see history in the making.
The dude who scored for Pumas, he's got Canadian roots, right?
Yes, he's played at U20 level. He played at the CONCACAF qualifiers for the U20s. And this is a guy, after I saw his performance there, because he can play for Mexico, he can play for Canada, and he's been capped at youth level for Mexico, he's been capped at youth level now for Canada. Obviously, you want him involved with the Canadian national team, but more than that, to me, this is exactly the kind of player that the Whitecaps should be splashing the cash on.
Yeah, you put that on social media.
To bring in as a U22 initiative player. Last year, I was banging on about that after his performances in the U20 qualifiers. Like that was only his third game for Pumas, so he's on the fringes of the first team.
That is one thing that we should probably clarify or qualify or whatever. And this doesn't take away from the massive achievement that it is for Cavs.
Yeah.
But someone did tell me that they were looking at their roster. I saw in the Fanatics conversation about this. I think it was Chris Doyle was talking about how he looked at the last three games for Pumas, and there was like kind of only three guys who were like kind of regulars kind of in that starting lineup. So that's an important part of the conversation.
Yes.
But not the most important part.
No. It was definitely a weaker team. Now, you can look at that. Did they underestimate Cavalry? I think they did a bit. But I don't know if it was us that had this discussion. I know I had this discussion with someone that I thought this is what Pumas would do for the first leg. They'd bring a weakened team because it's right in the middle of two tough league games. And if they're trailing, they'll be like, okay, fine, we'll just put out our full-strength team if we have to for the second leg. And that is most certainly what they're going to be doing on Thursday. It's a 5 o'clock kickoff Pacific time, live in One Soccer. If you don't have One Soccer, but you have a VPN, set it to the UK and you can watch it on the CONCACAF YouTube channel. So
how do you think Puma's Twitter would feel about them going out to Cavs? I heard there were quite an uproar, right?
Yes, the fans were not happy just at losing. They see it as an embarrassment. But, I mean, if they were to go out now, because the thing is, I think, and we didn't get a chance to ask Tommy post-game stuff on the Zoom, because obviously there was a lot of folk there in person, and they rightly get precedence over asking the questions.
Yeah.
So, and then the couple on Zoom were to folk from Calgary, which is only fair, it is their team. But I might go on the pre-game call and maybe ask Tommy a couple of things as well, because I really, really want to know what he feels the difference was and what they did learn from that Orlando game to now. It kind of felt that they came out for that second half and they're like, look, we've nothing to lose. We're one down, we're an away goal down, we're playing a Mexican team. Let's just go for it and see what happens. Now, how they approach the second leg, they need to get an away goal because that changes the tie completely.
Yep. Totally.
Without that away goal, they're just going to be on the back foot. They can't just sit back, though, and soak the pressure up. You saw how dangerous they were on the counterattacks. You saw how dangerous they were with crosses and set pieces. That's what they need to bring to that second leg. And Tommy's clearly going to know that. I'm not telling him anything he doesn't know. But it's like that's how they need to approach it, whilst being mindful that if they leave any space at the back, they risk being ripped apart. No matter what happens now, they can be immensely proud.
Yeah.
The tough thing as well, though, like if they were to go out and the forwards were to go out now, you've worked hard to get to a high level, but now you have to wait 6 weeks before your next game in league play, which is pretty tough.
Yes.
And I think you saw that a little bit with both of them last year, with how they started the season. It was a bit of a dip again after that.
There was, yeah.
But I can't see Forge doing what they need to do to go through. But in all honesty, Cavalry are huge outsiders going into this second leg. They're winning, but it would be, I think, the best result by a Canadian team, even more than when Montreal beat Santos Laguna all those many years ago.
Yeah, I think the scale, the disparity in the wage bills, I think is not even probably, well, that was pre-MLS impact on Montreal, but yeah, no, I still think it would be, I think it would be bigger, yeah.
One last thing to mention, another kind of elephant in the room kind of thing. There was VAR in this game.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how Tobias Warszewski's winning goal counted, because
it looks offside.
He was offside as the ball came in, and then it gets knocked back to him where he's back onside, but he's come to that from an offside position.
No, but the ball...
I thought that was offside.
No. Well, I thought it was offside too, but I haven't gone back and looked at it one more time. The ball that goes out to is Jay Herdman, right?
Yeah.
That ball, I don't care it doesn't matter if he's offside in that. If he comes back and he's onside for the pass from Jay. But that's the thing, is I think he was still offside from the pass from Jay. So
see, I don't think he was from that. I'm basing it coming back
then he was fine then. Because if you're offside on that ball to Jay and you come back onside and then Jay passes you, you're fine, because you might have been offside in that play, but you were not active or not involved in the phase of play.
But he was right in front of the keeper.
Yeah, but it was not a shot, right? It was not like it was a pass to Jay.
Yeah, I clearly know nothing because it was given. Also, if you haven't seen it,
you need to
watch it back and just watch Jay Herdman's reaction.
Oh, okay.
It's like amazing. He's like,
if you haven't seen the goal, you need to go watch it for the quality of it. The way that Warszewski controls it and then smashes it in.
Absolutely beautiful strike. We've got to say that as well.
Again, I think I've said it on the show, I know I said it to you a long time ago. He's one of the players that I wish Vancouver FC had taken and had brought in their first year. I think he went and did nothing for that year.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect from him because he struggled a little bit, but came in to Cavs and did superb. But like we mentioned Tommy's post-game audio, I'm going to bring you some minutes of that just now because I don't think I've seen it up anywhere, but here's about 4 or 5 minutes of a very happy Tommy Wheeldon Jr. after the match.
But it's very cold out here in the snow, marching to and from the enemy. Oh, I say it's tough, I have had enough. Can you stop the cavalry?
So, Tommy, you're probably really proud of your squad tonight. What are you the most proud of?
Yeah, it's tough to pinpoint it on one thing. I think we said we needed to start well. We needed to contain them. I thought we were defensively disciplined and had some nice moments with the ball in the first half, but we knew we had decisions to make in the second half. I think the goal forced our hand to attack a little bit more on the counter, and I think it probably raised our lads. But I was just pleased with the response. We came here last year. We went down a goal to Orlando, and then we went down a second goal, and then a third one after that. We've learned. We're maturing. I'm just so proud of the way the lads responded against a very good team.
You think you surprised them in any way?
Possibly. Maybe they've not seen us. They've had 5 games in their regular season now, and we haven't played since the final in an official game. So perhaps they didn't know what to expect and the conditions. I'm very thankful for the city of Langford and our friends at Pacific to have got this game ahead. So maybe we did surprise.
Like you mentioned, you guys haven't played since early November, but you told someone that hard to tell. What do you make of just the way the lads were committed through the off season? You have a month of preseason, you show up to this game, and immediately you're able to see the cavalry from last year right away.
Chemistry. Chemistry is key. I mean, we only really had 3 changes from the lineup of the final. I thought Cobza came in and did very well. Charlie Trafford was obviously a very imposing in what he did in terms of off the ball as well as scoring the goal. And then the third change, who's the third change? Off the top of my head. Now that's really testing me. Varling for Fraser Ed. Okay, so we only had 3 changes, but everybody knows the way we want to play. And we actually said, there are going to be moments where they're going to have the ball. So be compact, be tough to break down because we have quality when we go forward. And you saw that with Moosey, with Toby, with Sergio, with Jay Herdman, who I thought was terrific tonight. And then Kaniji Elba came in and added a little bit more as well.
Walk us through those emotions when Tobias scores that goal. Just an insane goal, I would have to say. But what did it feel like on the touchline? And immediately after, did you then just switch into, okay, we have to preserve this?
Well, it's funny. That was a funny experience, actually, because the goal itself was outstanding in terms of we lived in their half and we combined well. And then Moosey's got that lovely left foot and Jay Erdman's made a great run. And if you remember last season, those of you that watched us against Pacific, Jay Erdman scored at the back post in a very similar way. So we talked about the late run, but he also had the intelligence to nod it down to Toby. And Toby Waszewski's a special player. Like he's that's high level. If that's a MLS or Liga MX player doing that, people are going to be raving about him. So we celebrate. And then it's the first time we've had to go through the VAR delay. So it's one of them now. So that was a new one. We're like, okay, come on. No, come on. Right. And it seemed to take longer and longer. So we got to celebrate twice.
On that, so the Mexican, the Pumas delegation was next to us in the VIP box next to our press box. And it was actually them shouting down to the players to have a check.
Yeah.
Did you notice any of this?
Well, yeah, no, we didn't notice that, but that's what we prepared the boys for. There are going to be some dark arts on it, some off the ball things, but we feel they're learning moments. And I think what you're seeing with our national team able to do it in Ice Tecker, as it was once called, to now we're able to rise. And as a Canadian Premier League team that's on a fraction of what they're on, to go and produce that result is a mature performance from this group. And I think that puts everyone else and gives everyone else belief in this country.
But it's very cold out here in the snow, marching to and from the enemy. Oh, I say it's tough, I have had enough. Can you stop the cavalry?
Cock-a-hoop, I think, is how you can describe Tommy Wheeldon Jr. there. I liked when he first came in as well, because we've both been in that media tent.
Oh, it's freezing.
At Bangford, and it's cold even in the summer.
Yeah.
And he comes in, he's like, it's colder in here than it was on the pitch. Is this a meat locker or something?
Yeah. He was, he had a lot of bravado in that.
Yeah. If there's one thing Tommy knows how to do, it is to control and capture a room and have them eaten out of his hands.
Yeah.
When Cavalry beat the Whitecaps in 2019 in the Canadian Championship at BC Place, he was just holding court over media. Shook
Yeah.
everyone's hands as he came in, everyone's hands as he went out, sat down, the folk he knew was like, oh, hey, Michael, oh, hey. And just like, big smile on his face. And yeah, he's a top guy. I love Tommy.
Yeah. I was happy for him.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't like to play against Cavalry and lose points to them, and having never beaten them with Vancouver FC, that's frustrating. But no, I am genuinely happy for him and people like Marco and in a different way, you know, Fraser and Charlie Trafford scored. I don't know Charlie super well, but his brother is one of the people who makes the organization tick off the field.
Yeah, former Whitecap as well from the USL days.
Yeah, lots of great people there.
I was thinking I wanted Forrest to win, I wanted Cavalry to win, and I was thinking, it's weird because I always want Toronto and Montreal to lose.
Yeah,
but I'm like cheering on the CPL teams now. I don't know if it's because I don't really have a CPL team that I'm following, so they're not like the Whitecaps rivals as such. But I did wonder, were all the CPL fans on board? Did the York fans or the Ottawa fans we want Forge to lose? And any Eddie's fans, oh no, Cavalry have to lose here. Or...
Yeah, I didn't look at what the people were saying online within the CPL circles of like their kind of media people and stuff. They are very much everyone, you know, all for one kind of respect, which I know MLS used to always do, and that used to drive some people crazy.
Yeah,
but
it does with me a bit because like in Scotland and England, you're not going to have fans of other teams wanting their teams to do well in European competition on the whole.
Yeah, and I think I was in that scenario. I think I was like, I'm not happy for other MLS teams to do well in this competition. But again, that's for me. That's because it's an American league and this is a Canadian league, and so I feel differently about this.
Last thing we'll say on this, and it's something Tommy touched on. He said it gives belief to the Canadian teams, especially the CPL ones, that you can go and compete at this level. And as I mentioned, this is a learning experience for these players, these teams, the league. And it's just a fantastic result. And they'll learn from this year upon year. They'll get stronger year upon year. To be competing even with these teams at this level, at this stage, when it's your first competitive game of the year, absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, I concur.
A little bit more CPL chat just to round off the football chat for this episode. There has been some expansion chatter. So Josh Healy from Wanderers Notebook had put out that there's going to be 2 expansion teams in the CPL in 2026. One in Ontario and one not in Quebec that everyone's hoping for, but here in BC. And the rumours are it's Windsor in Ontario, which is the rights to that team is held by former CPL Commissioner David Clanahan. And the BC team, barring some other team coming in that no one's heard of, any murmurs about, it's going to be Kelowna.
Yeah, it would have to be.
I mean, if it isn't, and there's another team just comes out of the woodwork, that's stunning.
Yeah. I mean, Kelowna obviously had the CPL on tour game last year.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if Windsor gets one of those this season, because the league has very clearly said that they're not done doing that, and that even though Vancouver was the first team to do that, that most teams will have to participate that in terms of moving a home game to a different location, in terms of looking to build fan bases in the communities where they long to have clubs. And so I think if you see in 2025, you see a CPL on tour game in Windsor, and that's the only one in Ontario. Yeah. I mean, the other option
there's a few in Ontario that's pushing just now. Kitchener's one of them.
Kitchener, Waterloo, but isn't also there stuff going on that I've seen in the last few weeks or even month or whatever, that the Kingston the Kingston City Council is like approving a stadium but that might be for later than 2026. But
there's a few municipalities that have got like stadiums put in front of them. or ideas put in front of them. But yeah, Kingston is definitely one. Kingston's had meetings with fans. So, I mean, that could be one that you're looking at for 2027. And I know there's folk that's like, oh, why is there another Ontario team? Why is there another BC team? Why is there not one in Quebec? Why is there not one in Saskatchewan? Like, we all want that, but ultimately, it's who's going to pony up the money.
Yeah.
And it's like, if there's owners that's going to put money in cities that they feel they can draw fans, there's not ownership groups in Quebec and Saskatchewan, you're not going to turn these guys away.
Yeah. Well,
not a geek who wants to invest in the league.
Saskatchewan obviously hit these road bumps with the city and with, I think Joe Beelan's lawsuit. I don't know if that's still ongoing or what's happened with that.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with that one now.
But that is one thing I saw someone point out, is that it is interesting to note that this reporting has stated that, if all the conditions are met, and that I forget who I saw say this, but that is the same language that was used around Saskatchewan. Right? When there was like, oh, Saskatchewan's getting a CPL club, like the league is all for it, and it was like an official league thing. It was like, if all the conditions are met. So these proposed clubs in BC and Ontario for 2026, it's if all the conditions are met. So
yes, again,
there's still a number of hurdles to overcome for wherever these are going to be, and it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And yeah, whether it's Windsor or Kitchener or Kingston or Kelowna or wherever, it'll also be interesting to see how this could also impact the NSL. Because despite their posturing from the beginning of, not wanting to work with CPL clubs and whatever, obviously there's been some movement on that, and we haven't talked about it, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but there has been some movement on that because they are using same facilities, right? Like the team in Toronto is playing at York Lions Stadium, and
yep.
I think the team in Halifax is playing at Wanderers Grounds, right?
Yeah, they're Halifax definitely seem to work very closely together. It's great to see. They need to. I mean, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And I think Toronto are doing fantastic things with their team and getting into the community as well. And like, no one wants to be at York Stadium. So the plan is to get a stadium built that maybe both those teams can use as well. I'm curious who the ownership of the Kelowna team will be, because there's been murmurs that it could be 6-5 again owning a third team. There's been other folks saying there's no way the league would let them have a third team. Yeah. There's been mentioned that it could be the Southerns have ownership or part ownership, and they're already involved with Calgary. So we'll wait and see. It's probably going to be a multi-ownership group for Kelowna. But the other thing that Josh Healy had reported on Halifax or Wanderers Notebook was the plan seems to be that the league with 10 teams will go into East and West. 5 Western teams, 5 Eastern teams. That I'm not too keen on.
No. Obviously, you can imagine amongst supporters of Vancouver FC in this area, there's been discussion about that statement from the article. I don't like
just because of costs, just to keep costs down. If they're all still playing each other, it's absolutely pointless.
Yeah, someone said, I can't remember who it was now. It might have been Gail. Talked about, or again, Chris Doyle, or someone talked about how, when the league was started, they said, look, the cost of the flights is not as crazy, when you're playing all these games or whatever. They have sponsorship, like they're connected to WestJet, obviously, but we know that doesn't necessarily mean you get the best price from WestJet, and the flights aren't free. And
because the NSL announced a deal with WestJet as well as their official airline this week.
I thought they were.
I know everyone thought it was Air Canada, but it's now WestJet.
So that Air Canada deal must have fallen through,
I guess. Because the way I read the press release as well, it was worded in a way that made it sound like WestJet were giving them like the flights as part of the sponsorship. And I was like, that's not how it works in the CPL. I don't think that is going to be the case.
Yeah. So for the flight stuff might be a huge issue. Maybe it's not or maybe it's not as big as some might think. I mean, right now it's 7 opponents, everyone home and away twice. So it is a lot of repetition, right? So that's not ideal, but that's part of growing things. So if you get to 10 and then you have 9 opponents, again, playing everyone home and away twice, that's 36. That's too much. So I can understand how they'd want to lower that. But then if you're doing, so then what it would be home and away once against the opposite conference, so that's 10 matches, and then home and away twice against your local ones, so that's what, 4?
Yeah, another
4
8
times
games.
4. No, that's 16. Right, home and away twice against your
twice. All right, okay.
So that would be lowering it from 28 to 26 games, which also feels a little bit weird. And then in what you and I would probably agree on is a worst case scenario, they do some sort of thing where it's like, we got to stay at 28 games. We can't go below that. So you're going to have an extra game against your closest rival or whatever. And then it skews the table, obviously. So it makes the table uneven, which it will anyways if you're playing your conference more than the other conference, which, yeah. So
I look at it and, like, if you look at last season, the Eastern teams were by far the strongest. So then if that was to be repeated, an Eastern team loses out and a Western team gets into the playoffs just because it's the East-West split. That's what I don't like about it.
Yeah, and then there's the fact that Vancouver FC has never had the opportunity to take 12 points every year from Edmonton, like other teams have in the past. I look forward to Edmonton returning one day, and
but you'll probably have Kelowna you can take 12 points from.
Well, it'd be nice to hope that that's how it plays.
It's probably going to be a team of ex-Vancouver FC local players.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see how all of this plays out. We do plan a chat with Mark Noonan again on the show like we did last year, just after the season starts. So I'm sure he's going to get lots of questions about this from everyone that speaks to him in the coming weeks. That is it, though, for the football chat just now. Not it for the show. We are going to round things off with this episode's wavelength. This one is in honour of Jesper Sørensen, the man we spoke to in part 2, the new Whitecaps head coach, the great Dane himself. And I'm playing you a song from October 2021 from a LA-based hip-hop and rapper, Cousin Theo. Now, Cousin Theo has got 4 hip-hop rap albums with football themes, Zach. One on Argentine players, one on Uruguayans, one on Dutch, and one, maybe somewhat bizarrely, on Danish players. A 7-track affair called Hakendringer, which translates from Danish to English as Ho Boys. And it features songs about Michael and Brian Laudrup, Peter Schmeichel, Christian Eriksen, amongst others. So I'm going to play the first track from the album about one of the players that Jesper Sørensen looked up to when he was coming through the ranks as a youth player. This is Cousin Theo, M. Laudrup.
Laudrup. Og så fyrer han. Ej, han venter. Michael Laudrup. Det er genialt, det der. Det er simpelthen et af de bedste mål, der overhovedet er i denne turnering.
We're taking it from Japan out to Denmark. What up, Machacha? Y'all know what time it is. Let me talk my shit. Got the captain's band like Michael Laudrup on. Talk that talk. Yeah. The benchmark in Denmark like Laudrup. Never outworked, homie, you're outdone. Y'all know the outcome. I Xbox like Malcolm and still hustle hard like I'm down one. And ain't nobody follow my style, no proud son. I'ma hound that whole crown, go to town, son. Run around, son. Score one and show the crowd love. War party with the loud drum. Get the scout in my style and study the technique. I got heat that'll leave them blooded to next week. I been hungry, I rep the country with red cleats. Led seen I'm a born sinner with blessed speech. Yeah, you know, gifted with moxie. I've been the illest mid-city to Bromley. I'm just trying to get mine amongst the villains and zombies. And bitches known to put pigs milk in your coffee. Yo, from Los Angeles out to Van Los. Both friends and enemies wanna stand close. So at most, I move smooth like Vandross. Invested in self and watch the cash grow. Mad nights, another heist like Campo. Camp thrown to celebrate like it's 9-2. Elevated my IQ, hanging with fly crews. Like to smoke haze with a nice view. I need a shorty to slide through. Look at what pride do. Go a couple rounds in this Bible. I'm on the quest for my tribe, we all try true. Out the kitchen we go, man, you drive through. Your size zoom, chance slim as a size 2. Step on the mic, cause I'm ill with the haikus. This what I ride to, roll, wanna get high to take trips worldwide where the ocean and sky blue. Fail.
Cousin Theo, M. Loudrop, a song all about Michael Loudrop and more. And yeah, check out that whole album. We'll play some more songs from all of Cousin Theo's albums. I discovered it last year. He also has an interesting documentary series as well about like derbies and fights and like the extreme ends of derbies as well. Maybe even get him on the show for a chat. That'd be good to have. But that is it for this show just now. Any final thoughts from you, Zach, before we wrap this one up?
So earlier you were talking about cup football. You're talking about what happened at the Ibrox today. I just want to, I messaged you about this, but I only actually portrayed part of the picture. I want to give you the full picture. Just a shout out to my buddy Flo. Flo is a football fan, supporter of Bayern Munich and the German national teams, but is also just a ground hopper. Like he goes to as much football as he can. And he's in a let's call it a season of his life where he can create time and space to do that. So in this last week, these are the games he went to. So Friday, Bundesliga, Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena against Werder Bremen. Saturday, what he would call Bayern Amatura, or the Bayern Munich second team, playing a friendly in their still in their winter camp, a game in Austria at a stadium that is Stadium Hohe Warte in Vienna. Opened in 1921 and it used to hold up to 80,000 spectators, but it's much smaller now, obviously. So that's game 2 in Austria with the Bayern second team. Then he got on a flight and headed to Scotland, and he was at that Rangers game at Ibrox in the Cup. Then from that, tomorrow, so Monday, he was going to a St. Mirren match.
St. Mirren Hearts, Scottish Cup.
Tuesday, he'll be at Blackpool. Wednesday, he'll be at Parkhead for Bayern's Champions League clash with Celtic. And then Thursday, he has Port Vale on Thursday. So seven days, 7 matches. By my count, that's 4 countries. He goes on to tell me that, what do you say? So 4 new grounds for me, plus the Bayern match, 2 Scottish Cup, one Champions League, one English League, one English League Two. It says it brings me to 43 out of the 92 in England, and I believe 6 out of the 42 in Scotland.
Wow.
And then he's disappointed because I think it's the Amatura's like return to play in the 4th division, and I think it's first versus second. He has to miss it because Bayern. He has Friday kind of off from football. Saturday he's going to the big top of the table clash Bayern, which I believe is away to Leverkusen, and so he can't go to the second team because he's got to get to the first team game. Anyways, Flo does and has occasionally listened to the podcast when he has time, and so
you have to ask him what he made of the Rangers Queen's Park game. I'd love to get his thoughts on just the atmosphere, the game.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned Queen's Park had one shot and it was on target and scored. Rangers had 30. Did
he send me a picture? No, he posted pictures online of being at Ibrox, but I haven't messaged him about it.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. That's the life.
Shout out to Flo. He's a part of if you watch Bayern games, you've been watching Alphonso Davies, or he's part of a group called Red Munichs. You see their banners, lots there, and you'll see it also at Germany games as well. But yeah,
cool, fantastic. Remember, give Zach a follow on Twitter, Zachary AM, and Zachary AM as well on Blue Sky.
Blue Sky, yeah. I thought I'd keep that consistent.
Yeah, unlike me, that's all over the place. AFTN Canada on Twitter, AFTN on Blue Sky. Last shout as well for Fund Drive. If you want to head over to donate to CITR.ca, give anything you can. They're trying to raise $20,000 for the new website and archiving Discorder magazine. Mention AFTN sent you, and there's some swag you can pick up along the way. But that is it for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. We're going to be back next week, and we're going to be back with a special interview. Now, our interviews are long at the best of times, Zach. This is a 1 hour interview that will split into 2 halves, like a football match, with a former Whitecap. I'm sure some of you might be able to work out who it is. You don't want to miss it. It's a fantastic chat. A lot of good insight in it as well. We will be back with that next weekend. Hope to bring that one out on Sunday. So until then, thanks for listening. Take care, and as always, Mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
AFTN